Welcome back. Like I said last time, in this video, I'm just going to give a quick summary of the rest of Catherine's book. Then I'm going to hope that my beloved viewers buy and read it, because it's my pretty well-informed opinion that Catherine does a better job than anybody of putting America's messed up political and economic situation in a nutshell, without near as many of the big fancy words that other nerds like to use. Chapter 9 is entitled Healthcare for Sale. Catherine already talked about Big Pharma and those profit-sucking middlemen known as health insurance companies. In this chapter, her focus is on the fact that we as Americans spend vastly more on healthcare than people in other countries. And Americans are fatter, sicker, and die younger than people in a lot of third world countries. And I would point out there is complete bipartisan agreement that anything other than this purely profit-motivated system would be socialism. That's a big old fat lie, but as long as Americans continue to believe whatever corporatist politicians and their propaganda whores in corporate media tell them to believe, they're going to continue to get screwed. Catherine proposes common sense solutions you might find interesting, besides going to another country for expensive procedures, which is what I might end up doing to get a couple of dental implants, which would cost my entire income for a year to have done here. I got enough money in retirement savings to pay for them, but the thought of blowing that much money on just 2 teeth bothers me more than missing them, which is why I have a hockey player grin. It's funny, women don't seem to care, at least not redneck women. Chapter 10 is entitled Keeping America Safe. Catherine first gives a couple of quotes from our nation's founding fathers to show just how far we have departed from our founding principles when it comes to our military. Then she goes into the astronomical cost of corporatist defense policy and points out how it has made us as a nation less competitive in the global economy because we're spending tens of billions of dollars a year providing other nations' defense, enabling them to subsidize their productive industries. Of course, there's complete bipartisan support for this immensely profitable defense policy, as well as never-ending war, all to keep the world safe for corporatocracy. Of course, if you question this policy to corporatist politicians and their propaganda whores, you don't just hate America, you're a traitor who wants communists to take over America, while Muslim terrorists run loose in the streets murdering Christians. Chapter 11 is entitled The Culture Wars. It's essentially about the corruption of liberal values on the left and the corruption of Christianity on the right to keep we the people divided and conquered. The racist, divisive, social justice warrior movement didn't exist when Catherine wrote this book, but it was obviously designed to throttle down the Bernie Sanders socialist movement, which was picking up steam, and go balls to the wall with something even more divisive. What's not as obvious is how the Black Lives Matter movement is a similar kind of scheme. I'm going to link to this video where, with the exception of a face-tattooed little maniac who's apparently too brain damaged from smoking dope to make a bit of sense, the other black Americans in this video will tell you themselves what's up with Black Lives Matter. No disrespect to the woman who posted this video, but your belief that the New World Order is coming, it's been here for decades. The fact that you're not aware that it's already happened is just proof of how effective corporatist lies are. Most nerds would probably agree that it more or less officially began in 2000, when the Supreme Court flushed our Constitution down the toilet in the Bush v. Gore case. What's ironic to me is that Stop the Steal Republicans bitching and moaning that the 2020 election was stolen by the other side were freaking delighted in 2000 when 5 justices of the Supreme Court, Republican justices, for real stole the election for their side. Hey, stop the steal Republicans. Lady Liberty has a few words for you. Another thing, New World Order believers, you don't need to worry about a socialist takeover of our government. That already happened. Nerds call it socialism for the rich. And you don't need to worry about them enslaving you, just about them paying you slave wages while gutting social services from preschool to old folks' homes and everything in between. Back to the culture wars. For conservatives who have been led to believe that America was founded as a Christian nation, Catherine sets the record straight. First of all, there is no mention of Christianity or the Bible in any of our nation's founding documents. But our founding fathers did relentlessly emphasize that a shared moral and ethical framework is crucial to society. That's because people who behave ethically and morally encourage civil order regardless of their religious belief or lack of one. Catherine also points out that the Christian golden rule is in some form part of every religion in the world. I would add that the corporatist golden rule is not part of any religion, and that any corporatist who claims to be Christian is a damned hypocrite. To show how lots of religions have moral and ethical values in common, Catherine lists Mahatma Gandhi's 7 deadly sins. I found this list interesting because if you add words without honesty, public service without integrity, and citizenship without patriotism, you'd pretty much have the corporatist 10 Commandments. Catherine does not mention, but plenty of other nerds point out, that although corporatists on the right may claim to be Christians, many of them actually believe in a depraved, law of the jungle, economic Darwinist ideology, using cherry-picked Old Testament quotes justifying their vainglorious pride and their worship of the almighty dollar. And whenever they're talking about traditional values, you might think they're talking about the traditional values of Thomas Paine, Adam Smith, and the rest of our nation's awesome founding fathers. They're not. They're actually talking about the traditional values of Edmund Burke. In case you didn't know, Christianity is supposed to be based upon the teachings of Jesus, not Charles Darwin or Edmund Burke, and on the 10 Commandments that Abraham brought down from the mountain, not the corporatist 10 Commandments. What makes the situation even more complicated is the fact that a lot of corporatist elites also believe in the objectivist philosophy of a depraved sophist nerd by the name of Ayn Rand. Her philosophy of objectivism is essentially the belief that human beings, God's children, are nothing but objects, nothing but things to be used, manipulated, and then tossed aside like trash. I won't need to nerd whisper this book, because even though it's more than 1,000 pages long, the concept is actually really simple. In fact, I only highlighted 2 sentences in the entire book, the very first and the very last. The first sentence asks a question. Who is John Galt? Well, John Galt is what psychology nerds would call a masturbation fantasy. I don't really have time to define that, but let me put it this way. Whenever Ayn Rand was writing the parts of this book that included John Galt, she probably had to wear an adult diaper to keep from leaving a wet spot on her chair. She probably had to double up her diaper writing the ending, where comic book superheroish John Galt is standing on a mountaintop, metaphorically gazing down from on high at the devastation and ruin of an American society that had totally collapsed, because we the people obviously couldn't manage on our own after Galt and the other elite corporatist superheroes had snuck away to a secret, remote mountain valley. Not that they were roughing it. This valley was complete with homes, a power grid, water and sewage systems, even a runway, because that was the only way in or out of the valley. All of which, and so much more, the elites built all by themselves, without any help at all from any of us mere workers. By the way, don't ask me how they built a runway, the only way in or out of the valley, before one was there. Sophistry isn't supposed to make any sense. It's supposed to be emotionally satisfying and justify the beliefs of people who want to believe it. Anyway, as John Galt gazes down on an America in ruins, with the exception of its financial system apparently, he decides it's time for the elites to return to the world. Now all you got to do is read the last sentence. I went off on kind of a long tangent here, because it's crucial to understand that the principles of economic Darwinism, the political traditional values of Edmund Burke, the ethical values of the corporatist Ten Commandments, and the moral philosophy of Ayn Rand are essentially the four cornerstones of corporatism. Whenever I see a decent politician like Elizabeth Warren, bless her heart, all plucky and determined to fight corporatist corruption, to me it's kind of sad and ridiculous. Because even if she was able to pass legislation that was in any way effective, it would do about as much good in crushing those cornerstones of corporatocracy as literally pissing on a 10-ton granite cornerstone block. The only possible way to eliminate corporatist corruption is by nuking corporatism itself. And the only possible way to do that is by nuking, metaphorically nuking, the source of corporatist power in America, the Supreme Court. Specifically by nuking the Supreme Court's ability to ever again rule that corporations have the same rights, protections, and privileges as we American citizens. And the only authority capable of accomplishing that would be your state legislators voting to ratify a constitutional amendment abolishing corporate personhood. I hacked together a video clip, a parody of a scene from the movie Aliens, showing what Americans with guts and gumption would do in a situation like this.
What are we talking about this for?
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Fucking A.
Oh, hold on 1 second. This installation has a substantial dollar value attached to it. I cannot authorize that kind of action, I'm sorry.
Well, I believe Corporal Hicks has authority here.
He can't make that kind of decision. He's just a grunt. No offense.
None taken. Pharaoh, do you copy?
Standing by.
Prep for dust off. We're gonna need immediate evac.
Roger. On our way.
Say we take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Let's do it.
Please forget what I said in vid 4 or 5 about a proposal for that constitutional amendment. In my opinion, what that amendment needs is a way for we the people to remove sitting Supreme Court justices. If the Senate can appoint justices, seems fair that we the people, through a maybe 3/5 majority of the House, should be able to take them out. I was hoping to complete this summary in one video. Obviously, I'm insane. I'm going to pick it up next time at chapter 12. You're not going to want to miss the exciting conclusion of Patriot Acts. Hope you join me. If you like this video, why not click the like button? I'll put a link to the next episode over here.